human beings, as much as we say we evolve, in many ways, we make the same mistakes over and over and over again, and with history repeating itself. And so I kind of wanted to bring in that history with what's happening today. It's probably going to be a deep subject and a serious subject, but I will try to bring some levity to it as well.
You are now listening to the podcast where authors inspire listeners to become authors, the Going North Podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer, best-selling author, and book enthusiast, DomBrightmon. And you're going to be listening to a different author that will inspire you to join the business of immortality, known as authorship. Now let the fun begin. Today's episode is sponsored by both books, Going North, Tips and Techniques to Advance Yourself, and the follow-up bestseller, Stay the Course, The Elite Performer's 7 Secret Keys to Sustainable Success. Head over to Amazon.com, pick up both books. They are available in a trifecta of paperback, audio, and ebook. Cop all three of both and be on the lookout for another book from yours truly to help podcasters succeed. Now let's get on with today's episode. And today on the highlight reel builder for authors known as the Going North Podcast, we got another super special awesome human for you today, courtesy of one of the best websites on planet Earth known as podmatch.com, the wonderful site where podcast guests get to connect with podcast hosts. And today's guest is definitely cooler than two cucumbers indeed. That's right indeed, because we got another wonderful author in the building, baby. And again, I mean, 700 plus episodes in, all about authors. It'd be kind of weird not having an author on the show. Well, we got another one, baby. That's right indeed. And this one is all the way from the NY without the C. She's a wonderful mother, a world traveler, and a management consultant. So let's give it up for the outstanding and kind, the one and only Oksana Kukurudza. How you doing today, Oksana?
I'm doing very well, Dom. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, yeah, that's right indeed. That's right indeed. I swear this chick has a 4-leaf clover because somebody canceled out of nowhere. Then it's like, hey, can I be on the show? And I'm like, okay, well, she passed the sound test. All right, that's cool. Well, she's got a book coming out too in the future. All right, cool. And she actually snagged somebody else's slot. So her treasure today, baby. My treasure too.
Well, I'm feeling lucky, so let's see how it goes.
Oh, don't worry. It's going to go north. It all goes north here indeed. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. But hey, as with all introductions, they're not allowed to be 7 days, 5,000 years long. And I probably forgot, I don't know, maybe 5,000 minutes worth of content. So my filling in any cavities I may have missed about you that makes you the Oksana that you are today?
Oh, so many things, but yes, I will try to make this as succinct as possible. So you did mention that I definitely have a passion for travel and have done quite an extensive bit of travel and kind of writing journals about my travel in 80 plus countries. I work for a technology company where I focus on management consulting. I was even focusing on some client pitches today, so kind of nice to take me out of that. And just with some of my writing, I started doing writing recently that's been more leadership writing and anthology books with a friend of mine, and decided that I wanted to write something on my own and complete my first novel, which is a narrative nonfiction. I'm in the middle of writing it. I've got a good first draft started, but definitely need to do some editing for it. And I just feel I'm very passionate about the project because I feel that it is the time to do something like this. My background is a Ukrainian American, and I'm very passionate about what's going on in the news every day with the Ukraine-Russian war. And my family has an interesting background that I'm dying to share with the world. Very interesting people and a very interesting history that takes us all the way back to the 1930s to present day, and that history can just bring a lot of context to what's happening today, because human beings, as much as we say we evolve, in many ways, we make the same mistakes over and over and over again, and with history repeating itself. And so I kind of wanted to bring in that history with what's happening today. It's probably going to be a deep subject and a serious subject, but I will try to bring some levity to it as well.
Hey, it's all good. I know levity's your game. You're just like me. You're the youngest in your family. I'm not the youngest of 12 though, but I'm still a baby like you.
Yes, that definitely helps with the levity as well. I mean, no one really took me serious. I was the youngest.
But hey, that just means best looking and most entertaining. That's what that means.
Absolutely. You get all the attention and all the spoiling, right?
Okay, indeed. That's right, indeed. She's the white chocolate. I'm the chocolate. We're the yin yang, the babies. That's right, indeed. The babies are the best babies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now that I have my own baby, I really get it.
There you go, indeed.
It
There
is
you go,
all about
indeed.
her. We are now forgotten. I'm no longer a baby.
Oh, someone's baby somewhere, right?
Yes, yes. Someone else is looking after her today, so I can focus on this. No, but my book, I've got a great name for it. Sunflowers bend, but rarely break. And I don't know if you want me to kind of talk a little bit about it or introduce some other kind of things about my life that made me start writing this book. But I can go into that if you if you'd like, if you want to hear some more about it, if your
Oh,
readers would like to.
well, go on ahead. Definitely am interested because checking out some of your bio, it's like, oh, wow, like what the freaking heck? It's like, darn, sorry what happened to your parents like that. Like, what the hell? That's gotta suck.
I know, I know, I know, I know. Yeah, so I mean, growing up, I was born and raised in the US. Both my parents were born and raised in Ukraine, and they had me late in life. So I'm middle of Gen X, or you know, early 50s. And my parents had me when they were in their late 40s and early 50s. And they came from Ukraine, a part of Ukraine that back in the 20s and 30s was part of the country of Poland and the Republic of Poland. So they're from Western Ukraine. And they had I guess, growing up during the recessions, the global depression that we had in the 1930s. They lived through World War II. And my parents, unfortunately, were in the part of Poland that was partitioned and ended up becoming part of the Soviet Union in the late 30s. And then when the Nazis invaded in 1941, the Nazis were great propagandists, very much like the Soviets and the Russians of today. And they were publicizing these wonderful jobs that they had to offer to Slavic people, including Ukrainian people in Germany. And they were offering 6-month visas. And both my parents were in areas of Western Ukraine where, unfortunately, there were no jobs, people were hungry, and they were looking for work. And it just sounded like this amazing opportunity for both of them. They didn't know each other at the time. They were both very young. My father was 20, my mother was 17. And so they were duped at the end of the day by Nazi Germany to go to Germany, take a train to Germany. And then as soon as they showed up, their papers were taken away from them. They were, basically put into slave camps. I mean, I know a lot more about my mother's story, in a lot of detail, because she told me a lot more than my father did. And she was taken with others to a Slavic slave camp outside of Magdeburg in Eastern Germany. And she was forced, outside to work 12-hour days with, very little food and rations, and no pay, of course, at all. And she wasn't allowed to leave. And she was, kept in a slave camp that was not so different from let's say, what Auschwitz would look like, as an example. So it had the Gestapo, it had the German shepherds and everything. And my mother was just this amazing person. I mean, she was 17 years old when she left Germany on her own, and left Ukraine on her own and went to Germany. And to just think about, how she was able to survive the situation and make it better for herself by finding a way to start learning German, move into a greenhouse to make her life better, and just found a way to survive. And it's just a really interesting story of what propaganda could do, that there's slavery in the 20th century. We thought that all went away, right, in the 1800s, but it didn't. It existed in the 20th century. It's a bit of a little known story because it impacted 12 million Slavs, which is crazy. But it's also the story of resilience, where my mother was able to a way to survive it all. She was able to find kindness in many other people, good Germans, good Poles that would help each other out in these really difficult days. And so it just really shows you about resilience, and resilience with Ukrainians. And sunflowers is the national symbol, a national flower symbol of Ukraine. And the sunflower bends towards the sunlight, but it doesn't break. And that's how I see my parents. That's how I see Ukrainians, as these sunflowers. They're very stoic, they're very flexible and malleable, but yet they don't break. And I think that's what we're seeing too today with what's happening in Ukraine. And everybody wonders and is wowed by their will to fight and their stoicism, and they don't want to compromise, and they don't want to give up any territory. And I think it's just that resilience that's been built up over the years, and they're just showing that today. And I'm very proud of what they're doing. And I think it harkens back to, learning those tough lessons, during the 30s and the 40s.
Yeah. Tough lessons indeed, especially getting duped like that, and sad thing too, especially back then where there wasn't as many avenues for like alternative methods and like getting alternative media sources, and heck, even possibly making copies of your passport and your other papers and whatnot, having backups or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm with you. I mean, they barely had airplanes back then, right?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, my goodness. So, I guess with both your parents sharing and, of course, your mom sharing more information, like, did they have journals of their experiences that helped, I guess, feed some content towards this book that you're looking to get to the finish line?
So there was a number of things that they had. They told us some things. They also had letters of correspondence. So once the war ended, uh, they both ended up becoming refugees in Western Europe, and they still had very close ties to their family. So my mother was very close to her sister, and my father was close to his brother. And so they weren't able to go back home because suddenly after World War II, the Allies divided up Europe, and what was their home became part of the Soviet Union again, and fell under the Iron Curtain. So whilst they couldn't see each other for years, like almost 50 years, both sides of the family, both of my parents, wrote letters of correspondence back and forth. And so we have, so I have some letters that they wrote back and forth. I have the stories that they told us. I have the stories from my cousins and aunts that are still there, that recall, their mother or their father, telling them about what happened. There's still, some gaps. And so how I've tried to fill the gaps, I almost call it like stitching a quilt, where there are all these pieces, and I feel like I'm, the sleuth, trying to get clues and patch it together. And where I do have some holes, I just try to think about the parents that they became and what I knew of them, and maybe how they would act in situations, or how they became the way that they are, just to be able to fill in the blanks when I can. but yeah, it's been quite a journey over the years to patch everything that happened to them, because, they had the experience in Ukrainian Poland in the 30s, the experience in Germany during the war, experiences as refugees in Western Europe and Germany primarily. But my father also worked in the coal mines in Belgium, which is really interesting too. And then eventually they were able to make it to the United States, and they had many children along the way. So they had 6 in Europe and then another 6 here in the States. And just, talk a bit about their struggles and the immigrant experience too in the United States, which I think is very interesting too, to just tie back to in general. And then just having, I think, a success story at the end of the day, where they raised 12 children here in this country. We've all braced the United States and are now American roots, and having, many grandchildren also to show for it. And so while the, story itself starts off sad, I feel like it ends in a bittersweet way. They're able to, they were able in their lifetimes to see the wall fall down in the late 80s, to reconcile with their families in Ukraine. So I talk about, the story of my mother seeing her sister for the first time in almost 50 years, and just that experience. It's like someone that you grew up with, right? Like you're the closest human being to you. And then 50 years later, you finally get to see her again and embrace her again. And I talk about that and those feelings. And so I try to bring a lot of warm moments, into this story, because I know it's a heavy topic and I know it can be tough to absorb, right? All of it. And I like to also bring in some of the comical moments too. Like, for example, when I know I'm kind of talking a bit around the story, but when my parents had their first daughter in Germany, and at the time you spent 5 days in the hospital as a woman in Germany having a baby, according to my mother. And she was so close, or my sister was so close, or she was so close to giving birth to my sister, that an ambulance had to take her to the hospital, and she actually had the baby in the ambulance, which is interesting to start. And then she was at the hospital in the maternity ward, and my father took off work, rushed to go find her at the hospital, and he couldn't find her because, and I hate to be a little stereotypical about this, but he was being kind of that stereotypical guy where he wouldn't go ask for help or ask for questions. So he went looking around as much as possible, couldn't find her, came back home. He did this for 3 more days, not finding my mother. And then finally on the 5th day, a neighbor next door who was German and spoke really good German, and my father didn't at the time, he relied on my mother, went with him to the hospital, found the maternity ward. He was finally reunited with my mother. And 5 days later, she kind of looks at him and says, "Are you okay that I named the baby? I couldn't wait any longer." and he said, "Sure, that's fine. I understand."
I mean, if that's all he got away with or got off with, I mean, sure, that's a small price to pay.
Yeah, I know, right? Being alone like that. But my mother was very independent, and she made me very independent too. I mean, she, the minute the Soviet Union opened up some, I mean, she was on a plane without even telling any of us that she was going to Ukraine to see her sister. And yeah, so she was very, very adventurous, very spirited in her younger days, and secretive and stubborn. And I have some of those qualities, not all of them. I don't see myself as stubborn necessarily, but I definitely have that adventure spirit. So I think, her interest in traveling and seeing other places, was definitely passed down to me, and, and really created my interest in travel as well. I may have shared with you that that I myself had an opportunity in the mid 90s when I was working in public accounting to go to different countries to work with a public accounting firm. And I worked in Italy for a few months in the mid 90s. And then I found this opportunity as well with the same firm to work in Ukraine. And so without knowing anyone except for my mother's family, whom, we weren't close because we didn't grow up together. I just got in an airplane at 24 and moved to Kiev for a year and a half. So I also got to see firsthand what what the post-Soviet Union looked like and what Ukraine looked like, and got to meet the people firsthand and see it for myself. And so I also, and I talk about it in the book that I'm writing, that I got to see the journey firsthand of what Ukraine was like when, right when it became an independent country and separate from the Soviet Union and Russia, and then how it's evolved, over the years to the country that it's become today. And it was interesting times, I would say, in the mid 90s. And I learned a lot about that experience, a lot about myself, a lot about being, even more independent. And I just observed a lot about what life was like there, and and how much while the people were struggling, because it was a poor country, there weren't a lot of jobs. The young people were just so smart and so capable, and they were like sponges. They would just pick things up and learn it and take it. And we had a lot of fun. So, I mean, Ukraine is a cold country. I showed up in January and it was really cold. I've never been to a colder place in my entire life. And now you understand why vodka is so popular in places like Ukraine and Russia, because it does get very cold in January and February. And and some of the people were not much warmer than the weather, but other people were incredibly warm and friendly. And that region has some just fun peculiarness to it, in terms of I just remember with my colleagues, and I was young, I was 24 at the time, but one of the things that Ukrainians and Russians like to do, kind of very similar to Scandinavians, is they love the sauna. And I think part of the reason they love the sauna is because winter is so long, right, and harsh in those countries. And so it was not unusual for me to go with my Ukrainian work colleagues to the sauna, and we would all hang out together in our bathing suits in a sauna, and someone would bring snacks and someone else would bring beer, and we would just hang out in a sauna together and drink beer and eat some snacks. And that was an unusual cultural work experience, but it was all very well accepted there.
Yeah, it's funny how that works because I'm sure it's a lot stronger over there too, and it's well accepted as opposed to here.
Yes, I don't think that would have gone over all that well here in the United States, at least to do that at work.
Yeah,
With your work
exactly.
colleagues, right? Yeah. I mean, it wasn't during the work day, right? It was on the weekend. And it was definitely those who wanted to do it, but it was a lot of fun. It was a good group, and I've stayed in touch with quite a few of them, and many of them have moved to other countries to work, especially in the current condition with the current conditions. I mean, some people are still there, but everyone's
Ah,
kind of holding on and doing okay.
yeah, sorry to hear that. Definitely, definitely indeed. Crazy
Yes,
situation. It's a crazy situation.
absolutely.
Yeah, especially just everything these past 3 years and counting all together with it's just adding on to it. It's like, oh god, no, what the
I
freaking heck?
know, I know. We have war, we have inflation, we just got out of COVID, right? Yeah, and we're dealing with a lot of things. And really this book that, I'm hoping to get published, I just hope it shines a light on and teaches people a little bit about, from my perspective, at least my humble perspective, of what Ukrainians are like as people, and why they're in the situation that they're in, and why they're fighting, and and humanizes them as well, because they really are interesting people, and Ukraine has a very interesting culture that is dates back to the 800s, at the foundation of Kiev Rus, which the Kiev Rus Empire, the center of it was Kiev and not Moscow. And it's the important thing that I like to teach as a Ukrainian. And I think Russians have a wonderful culture, a wonderful history, and a wonderful language. And Ukrainians have a wonderful culture, a wonderful history, and a wonderful language. And we should be embracing both and everyone in this world. Because at the end of the day, Dom, I'm a peacemaker, and I really want to find a way to, in my own little way, to find some peace in this world. Because I blame the Russian government. I don't blame the people of the country. So a lot of times don't have a choice. Your government can do good things and bad things, right? And the only thing you can do, if you're in a country like ours, which is free, and you're able to go out and protest, you can do that. But if you live in a country like Russia, which doesn't have a lot of freedom, which don't have a lot of freedoms right now, then you don't have a lot of options, other than a silent protest or something.
Yep, it's true, because they stomp that mess out quick, I hear.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But hey, my goodness, and guess the good and the bad with all the good stuff indeed. So my goodness, so with this process, so is this going to be historical fiction or a nonfiction book?
It's going to be a narrative nonfiction. So it'll have a little bit of memoir, because I do want to bring some of myself into the story so that you get to learn a little bit about me, and I'm definitely setting things up, and I'm weaving in some of my found mysteries, or uncovering of surprises about my parents, introducing different parts of the book. So you'll see a little bit of my own journey of self-discovery, as well as, discovering my parents, culture I never knew, because I couldn't just hop on a plane and go visit Ukraine whenever I wanted to when I was really young. And then you'll see, my parents' story as well, written as accurately as I can. As I said, there are gaps. So I'm just trying to fill the gaps as much as I can with how I think things happened, or how they would have happened, or how my parents would have reacted to it based on how I knew them. So I would definitely call it much more of a narrative nonfiction. And, like I said, I really want to publish this book, and there's going to be family secrets in it too, which I'm not going to reveal, but really interesting family secrets, because my family has a colorful past. But I'm doing it because I really want to service the community. I really want people to know about this event that happened during Nazi Germany to 12 million Slavs, because I don't see it anywhere in popular culture. It's written, in small font in these tiny little academic books that, unfortunately, not very many people read. And I'm also doing it because I hope it does shine a light and give some meaning and some understanding to Americans, Canadians, whoever would like to read it, that maybe doesn't quite understand what's going on today with the Russo-Ukraine war. And I also would like to use much of the proceeds of the book that I may earn towards the refugee crisis currently in Ukraine and towards reconstruction. So I really want to pay this book forward, as a tribute to my parents, as a tribute to the 40 million Ukrainian sunflowers that I'm calling them, because they are stoic, they are resilient, they're not going to break. And I want to do a good cause. I want to find a way to help the cause and to raise money for the cause, to educate and to help Ukrainians with reconstruction and with the refugee situation.
Sounds good indeed. Sounds good indeed. So my goodness. So this sounds like a great project that's gonna be coming out. It's gonna be freaking fabulous indeed. So my goodness. So since you haven't been on too many interviews talking about the book just yet, since it hasn't fully emerged into reality just yet, is there a question that you wish folks would ask you more often when you're being interviewed?
That is a really good question. I mean, usually, right? I've watched a couple of your podcasts, and you always ask people what they wish they could tell themselves if they were 25 again. And it kind of reminds me of that Back to the Future episode, where Marty's able to go back and tell his younger self. And, for that, I would just say, I know it sounds like I've taken a lot of risks because I lived in this, in a foreign country that had just opened up. But I wish, I'm kind of a conservative person, and I wish I had taken more risks when I was younger. And that's part of what I would tell myself, because here I am, not that I'm old, but I'm at that 50 mark now. And I've learned that I really love writing, and it's quite a passion for me. And so I don't want this to end. And I almost wish, that I knew that when I was 25, and I could go back and tell my 25-year-old self that go be a writer, go take that risk. Don't be an accountant, be a writer.
Yeah, that's right indeed. That's right indeed. 'Cause I guess Oksana doesn't love the numbers that much.
No, no, of course I love the numbers. Don't we all love the numbers, Dom? That's how we, survive in and day out. No, for sure. I mean, I do, and I like my clients, but I really love writing. I mean, I've really been enjoying this journey, and I wish I had told myself at 25, go take a chance, be a writer. You can always come back and be an accountant if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, plus writing sounds a lot more exciting than being an accountant with all the numbers all day. But hey, you love numbers, so it's all good with me. It's right indeed.
No,
Someone's got to love the
absolutely.
numbers. They're older than
Oh,
us.
absolutely. No, absolutely.
That's right indeed. So my goodness, so since you got a whole bunch of wonderful experience and wisdom in that wonderful head of yours, what would you consider your biggest setback in life that actually became your biggest success?
Hmm. I would say that when you know, I didn't get into my, best college that I wanted to. And so I found an alternate course. When I graduated from college, I really wanted to work for this one specific firm, and I didn't get an offer. So then I found a way around it, so maybe it took me an extra year, but through kind of finding alternatives, I was able to, get a job with that firm and do what I wanted, which was public accounting. So I think what I found is, whenever I, see something as a perceived fail, it's always find the alternative path, and maybe that alternative path ends up being better for me anyway. Because if I had just gotten that job with that firm from day one, I wouldn't have gone and worked in Italy for 6 months or Ukraine for a year and a half. And so never see a failure as the worst thing that ever happens in your life. It's see a failure as something you can learn from, or maybe there's a better plan for you that you just didn't realize at that time.
Ah, that's what I'm talking about indeed. That's right indeed. Sounds like good old delays aren't denials. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. That's
Absolutely.
right. Indeed. That's indeed. That's right indeed. Because hey, you got that travel experience under it. So I guess you got some polyglot swag under your belt. Probably got what? Two other languages under your belt? Three of them?
Well, I would call my Ukrainian very basic these days. It was pretty good when I was living in Ukraine, but it's gotten rusty over the years. So some basic Ukrainian, and then, I've got, conversational Italian that I keep up. So I wouldn't quite say I'm a polyglot, but I can hold myself in a couple of different languages to at least, have a conversation.
Okay. All right, so you're that right, folks. If you need somebody who speaks Ukrainian to disarm a bomb, don't call Oksana just yet. Don't do
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I call my cousin in New Jersey. Everyone needs a cousin in New Jersey, right? Especially to disarm a bomb.
It's like, it's all right. I know a guy.
Yeah, exactly. The best people come from New Jersey. They know it all.
Especially the fist pumps. That's right, indeed.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So, my goodness. So, this fabulous book out here, yeah, actually was co authored or part of an anthology that recently came out. Funny enough, it was from an Australian author, no less, who spearheaded it, called Going Against the Grain. You were part of that book. So, my goodness. So, if that book were a food, what would it be and why?
Going against the grain. That were a food, what would it be and why? That's a very good question. So I think it would definitely be a fowl. So it would be, something like a pigeon, let's say. And I'm going to get to the why, because to me, going against the grain is really about empowering and freeing yourself and enabling yourself to fly like a bird and be free. Because I think in today's society, we get ourselves trapped and wrapped up into the way we should be, our way we think society wants us to be, instead of who we really are, who we really want to be, and set ourselves free, go against the grain.
Ah, all right. So, pigeon stew, huh?
Yeah, yeah. It's actually, I think it's a delicacy in maybe Italy or something. You got to have it. That and rabbit, by the way, that is a delicacy in Italy as well. The Italians are not afraid, to try some different animals, and neither were my parents, by the way. My parents raised rabbits for food.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So I would play with them when they were babies, and then my parents would cook them, and that sometimes made it to the dinner plate. So I was always very careful as a child what I ate. Became a
Ah,
fussy eater because I just didn't like the idea of eating my pets. I don't know if you kind of feel the same way. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I figured.
they didn't make you
I
chase the
have
rabbits,
not
did
put
they?
that in the, I have not, now that I think about it, I have not put that in the book. I think I need to.
Well, hop to it, huh?
Yeah, exactly. There you go. There's a great pun.
Well, I guess that gives rabbit holes a new meaning. They
Yeah, no, absolutely.
didn't make you chase the rabbits down and cook them, did they?
No, they didn't, but we had a little house for them outside. And I remember one time that I did open it up and pull a few. I was really fascinated by the little bunnies, the babies, and, pulled a few out, and I did lose them in our yard. And then, I was like frantically running around the yard trying to chase these little babies down so I could put them back in my home, in their homes, so that I didn't get in trouble with my mother.
Yeah, the rabbits knew the story. They're like, she let us out. We knew she was our friend. We keep on
Right,
losing
right.
our family over here and our friends. It's like daddy grabs him. It's like we never see him again. It's like, what the heck? You see random
Exactly.
fur.
She's trying to make us free. And then look, she turned on us. She's taking us back.
Ah, that's right indeed. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Wait, it's all good. It's all good. You turned out all right. You're still here.
Yes, I survived. I'm still getting over the tragedy, right? Maybe I need to go into therapy now that I remember that story. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, if you wake up with bunny ears tomorrow and a corn cob on your doorknob, then maybe you do need therapy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I agree with you 100%.
The corn cob will be my fault, though. I can't take claim for the bunny ears. You're on your own
Okay.
with the bunny ears.
That's fine. Oh my. Do I have some? I bet you my little girl has some bunny ears around somewhere. Halloween.
Ah, there we go. That's right
Yeah.
indeed. Make
I'll wear
mommy
them
hop to
next
it.
time we meet when the book's out.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. All right. That gives you even more of a reason to come back. All right, that's what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. For sure.
Yes. That's what I'm talking about
I'm sure
indeed.
I'll have more stories. I mean, those were just a few.
Ah, me
You know, the
likey, me
youngest of
likey.
12, there are a lot of stories.
Heck yeah. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. And we're the best storytellers. That's right indeed. That's right indeed.
Absolutely.
That's right indeed. So my goodness, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive. And that is if it'll wake up tomorrow and you were 25 again, but you're still in the current year, what advice would you give to yourself?
I would just, make sure that I stay true to myself, keep my confidence, and I don't let other people influence me, and just, enjoy life. We all have one to live, and so we all need to enjoy it.
Ah, there you go. All
Don't
right.
take life too seriously,
Ah, so that's good.
except when we're, of course, counting the money. I mean, that you have to take seriously. You got to be accurate on that one.
Yep. No overages, no shortages. Even though overages are probably better than shortages. Maybe.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Well, I know folks need to have an overage of followers keeping up with you and your journeys. For those need to keep up with all the stuff that you're doing, especially getting on that waiting list for your magical book and all the other things, all things Oksana, all things outstanding Oksana. What's the best way for folks to do so?
Definitely my website, which either will be up and running or very soon up and running, and it's www.sunflowersrarelybreak.com. And there should be some good information on getting on the mailing list, reading some of the blogs that I'll be putting out, and hopefully a timeline, on exactly when the book will be out.
Sweet. Well, there you have it, folks. That's right. They gonna put a link to all of Oksana's goods and goods. He's in the show notes indeed. That's right indeed. Sunflowers really break indeed. That's right indeed. So if you see some Kit Kats next to a sunflower, you know it's a bad sign. That's right indeed. They'll be like, give me a break. Sunflower's like, no, you're ruining our shtick. Don't do it. No, they put the Kit Kat next to us. No. And then it'll be game over. And then you wake up and realize it was just a bad dream. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. But hey,
Hmm.
Oksana's all about making sure you have good dreams.
Absolutely. And if I could just also plug, I mean, I'm on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn as well. If people want to reach out, I'm happy to connect with them too, as well as within the website.
There we go. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. So if you see a spider with some glasses, head over to that website.
Absolutely.
That's right indeed. Professor Spider.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Might even call him Petey.
Funny, funny, funny.
Well, before we park in this rabbit hole, any parting words
Oh,
before we
wow.
close up shop?
Oh my. Just that, so happy to be able to talk to everyone on this podcast. Thank you so much, Dom, for having me. I really, really appreciate it. And I feel already like I'm chiller up north than I was today in little steamy New York. So thank you for brightening up the day.
If you're hearing this part of the episode, that means you're one cool individual. Thanks a bunch for tuning in, and if you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to share it with at least one other person in your network. Bonus points for 3. And be sure to check out the backlog too while you're at it, because there are hundreds of wonderful episodes to choose from as well.